conducted in public or in private, and may involve threats of violence, coercion, and manipulation in the form of intimate partner violence, sexual violence, child marriage, and female genital mutilation, critical in curbing the effects of this. Is further concerned that there are inadequate rehabilitation and reintegration programs for victims, perpetrators of gender-based violence. The victims of gender-based violence, as well as perpetrators, require specialized
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Chair held. Honorable Bukose, Daktari.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 11th October 2023. Reports on the Departmental Committee on Health on its consideration of 1, the Facilities Improvement Financing Bill, Senate Bill number 43 of 2023, and 2, the Primary Health Care Bill, Senate Bill number 44 of 2023. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable Member for Kajiado North. We'll move on to questions. The Honorable Member is not here yet. We go to question number 371 of 2023. The Honorable Member for Matuga, Honorable Kasim Tandaza. Question to the Judicial Service Commission.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to ask question number 371 of 2023 to the Judicial Service Commission. Could the Commission, 1, state the steps it is taking to address the backlog of 521,823 cases indicated in the judiciary and the Administration of Justice Annual Report for the financial year 2021-2022 as pending in various magistrates' courts as at 30th June 2022. 2, provide a status report regarding construction of new court infrastructure in every sub-county to enhance timely access to justice and speed up conclusion of cases pending in various magistrates' courts countrywide. 3, provide a status report on when the stalled court building in Kwale, Matuga constituency will be completed and how much money has been allocated to the project. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Tandaza. That will be replied before the Departmental Committee of Justice and Legal Affairs. Next, we go to question number 440 of 2023 by the Honorable Professor Phyllis Bartow, member for Moiben constituency. Honorable Bartow, you may ask your question. Question number 440 of 2023 to the Teachers Service Commission. Okay. I think the clerk shall give her the question. Meanwhile, we can move to question number 453. We'll come back to that one, of 2023, by the Honorable Member for Machakos County, Honorable Joyce Kamene, also to the Teachers Service Commission. Honorable Kamene, I think I'd seen her. Okay, I think I'll go back to question number 440 of 2023 by the Honorable Member for Moiben. Honorable Professor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have two questions. Question one is the Teacher Service Commission to substantiate the alleged ingenious acts of corruption activities in the Teacher Service Commission Pension Department. The second question is to explain the measures implemented by the Commission to address and prevent corruption within the management of the Pensions Department with the aim of improving service delivery. Those are my two questions, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Professor Phyllis Bartow. That will be answered, that will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Education. I think we can, I see Honorable Joyce Kamena, member for Machakos County, has arrived. You may proceed to your question number 453 of 2023. Also the Teachers Service Commission.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The question to the Teacher Service Commission, question 453/2023. Could the Commission explain how the 6.4 billion allocated to the supplementary budget 1 of the financial year 2022-2023 for the purpose of teachers' recruitment was utilized? Clarify, highlighting the number of teachers recruited by the gender, counties, and PWDs, particularly in Machakos County. Second, elaborate the prospects of the 26,000 individuals engaged as teacher interns and share of contingencies plans in the place to safeguard their livelihoods once their internship contracts are concluded. State the action plan undertaken by the Commission to ensure that there is fairness and equity in future recruitment, teacher recruitment exercises, and the adequate deployment of the teachers in special needs schools countrywide. And the last one, declare the monitoring and evaluation tools currently utilized to assess the efficiency of the training provided to teachers and school administrators in the competency-based curriculum, considering the ongoing challenges faced by parents who find themselves assisting with homework in as de facto teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. I would like to, before we proceed, I'd like to recognize the following school that is seated at the speaker's gallery: Moimui Mixed Secondary School from Kipipiri constituency in Nyandarua County. To the teachers and the students of the school, on behalf of the National Assembly and myself, I wish to welcome you to the National Assembly. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 8, motion. review of the scope of education bursary scheme under the National Government Constituency Development Fund and capitation for learners in primary and junior secondary school. Question to be put.
Honorable members, as debate had concluded on that matter, I now put the question. That aware that Article 43(1)(f) of the Constitution, as read together with the Article 53(1)(b), entitles every child to free, quality, and compulsory basic education, and cognizant of the fact that access to funding for education immensely contributes to the realization of universal access to basic education in the country. Appreciating that Section 48 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, NGCDF Act of 2015, establishes education bursary schemes for every constituency towards access to the basic education, and noting that Section 48A of the NGCDF Act further allows for affirmative action mechanisms of allocating additional funds to cater for the education, bursary schemes, and other teaching and learning-related activities. Concerned that the NGCDF Act caps allocation to bursary schemes under the fund at not more than 35% of the total constituency allocation in a financial year, thereby limiting the number of cases that may be supported to access basic education. Further concerned that the NGCDF board only been approving bursary support for the secondary and tertiary education and not primary schools, and the recently created junior secondary schools, cognizant of the fact that failing to extend bursaries to primary and junior secondary schools on the assumption that the two levels of education are free, in quotes, is a misnomer, since the government's capitation per pupil is inadequate to cater for the mandatory materials required for the competency-based curriculum, also known as CBC, thereby affecting pupils whose parents are unable to meet their attendance costs. Deeply concerned that continued exclusion of allocation of bursary to primary and junior secondary schools violates the provisions of Article 27 of our Constitution and slows down the attainment of the universal basic education in Kenya. Now, therefore, this House resolves that, 1, the education bursary schemes under Section 48 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, Act of 2015, be extended to support learners in primary and junior secondary schools to cater for competency-based curriculum requirements. And 2, pursuant to Section 48 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, Act of 2015, the NGCDF board in each constituency approves additional allocation to the education bursary scheme in order to support for teaching and learning related associated with CBC education, including school feeding programs. And finally, the government revises the capitation per student in primary schools from the current 1,420 per year to at least Kenya shillings 7,760, being the minimum optimal capitation, factoring the new CBC education system and the prevailing high cost of living. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order. Yes, they definitely were not in the chamber. That's why I ignored them. Yes, what's your point of order, Honorable Chepkonga?
Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 87. Madam Speaker, is it in order for members of parliament who have not logged in to vote when they are outside parliament. Isn't that disorderly, Madam Speaker? They should be ruled out of order. Because you can't be shouting, you have not even heard the question, they have just seen you. There's no voting by seeing. It is voting by hearing.
You're very correct, Honorable Chepkonga. They were actually before the bar, so they were not yet in the House, hence the reason why I ignored them. Let's proceed. Next order.
Order number 9, motion. Expansion of drug and substance abuse rehabilitation centers. Resumption of debate.
Honorable members, on this particular motion, we have a balance of 1 hour, 2 minutes, and I think Honorable Kathleen Omayo, member for Busia County, had a balance of 2 minutes. She's not in, so I'll just go on and follow the list as I have it. The Honorable Member for Malava constituency, Honorable Moses Ijendi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want first of all to thank Mheshimiwa for coming up with this motion, because indeed the issue of drugs is really a big issue amongst our youth. Madam Speaker, previously Western Kenya did not have this kind of problem amongst our youth, but currently it's a big issue affecting most of our youth in Western Kenya. In fact, a research that was done in 2022 indicated that Western Kenya is actually leading in the abuse of drugs. Madam Speaker, I would recommend that this problem should be taken as a mental problem, mental sickness, whereby these persons should be taken to this kind of centers and have a proper treatment. Madam Speaker, currently, these particular centers, when persons get there and come out, they're kind of stigmatized, which makes the persons who have gone there, when they come out, actually they continue or they relapse into the same practice of drugs because of the kind of treatment they get from their peers, the community in general. Madam Speaker, we will not. When it comes to most of the strikes in our schools, most of the students, the pupils who lead these strikes, Madam Speaker, are actually students who have actually engaged in this kind of behavior, taking drugs. And unfortunately, Madam Speaker, I don't know what's happening with our country. These drugs are easily available in our community. You know, the kiosks around schools, some of the rooms or hostels around schools actually are known to host persons who deal in these drugs. And Madam Speaker, it is also worth to note that the persons really who are involved in this business are some of the well-up persons in the country who don't care so much of the effects of this particular drugs to our youth. Madam Speaker, something else I would actually maybe urge the government is that presently, for example, now in Western Kenya, we don't have any of these institutions in the region. And most of these institutions are, what is striking, they are run by private entities, institutions. The question is, how come the government is not involved in running these institutions? Maybe it's a moment the government can come in as having these institutions and running them for effective management of this problem in our country. Madam Speaker, we are aware the criminals who have caused harm to the society, when they're taken to prisons, Madam Speaker, they're actually trained. Some of them, when they come out properly rehabilitated with some skills in the community. But when it comes to these rehabilitation centers, the current ones, Madam Speaker, when the persons go there, what is happening there in the private institutions is just a matter of maybe eating, sleeping well, being taken away from the community. So there isn't much that improves these particular persons. And you find that apart from the youth who are involved in this and they become destroyed, we also have actually professionals. You find teachers, you will find doctors also affected by this kind of problem, whereby when they get into these institutions, Madam Speaker, we must have proper engagement that when they come out, like when he's a teacher, when he gets out back to school, he can actually begin teaching effectively and like it is presently. Otherwise, I want to thank Mheshimiwa Makali for this motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Taita Taveta, Honorable Lydia Mzigi. And Honorable Members, we can make our contributions brief so that as many as possible participation can be found from the members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Though I was holding on for the next agenda, but I wish to comment on the motion that is on the floor right now on the expansion of drug and substance abuse rehabilitation centers. Madam Speaker, I want to begin by congratulating the member, my colleague, for this motion. I will say that it is really timely. Matters drug and substance abuse are on the rise. We have seen so many youth who are suffering. We are losing even some because of matters drugs and substance. And Madam Speaker, I believe in second chances, because at times these youths and many people get into drugs not knowing what will happen to them, or not knowing the repercussions. And majority of them are given a second chance through rehabilitation. They can change and become better people in the society. So I support the motion. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Seme, Honorable James Nyikal, again pleading with you to keep it brief so that the members can have an opportunity.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll try, but this is a very interesting topic. Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this, and I must congratulate my colleague, Honorable Makali, for bringing it on. Madam Speaker, drug and substance abuse is a big problem in this country, affecting mainly the young. It is a complex phenomenon involving our social structure, our family structure, availability of these substances and drugs in the community. And you find that they are in schools, in shopping centers, they are in clubs, wherever people get together, particularly young people, somehow these are available. Sometimes they come in formats that people argue as to whether there's the substances of abuse or drugs. Just last week we were talking about Velon, which is definitely a nicotine derivative, and we are wondering whether it is one. They come in all those forms, in many disguised forms. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, it also involves individual predisposition and the family circumstances, so that you will find that even in a family, one person may actually be affected or the others are not affected. In a school, so that it's all aspects of the society we must look at. But in the end, when persons are affected, it results into a mental illness. And then it becomes completely difficult to manage, because the hallmarks of mental illness is lack of insight, which means the affected person does not realize that he or she is unwell and will therefore not seek treatment. And worse still, will not abide by the treatment that is given. So will not adhere to the treatment that is given. So it becomes very complex, and it affects people in their very youthful period when they are very vulnerable. Another aspect at this time is actually physical addiction, which means the person is physically and physiologically addicted, and without it, they actually get physically sick. So they will now look for this drug, and that is what brings behavior that will include even theft, even violence, just to get a means of sustaining this habit. At that problem, Madam Speaker, at that point, Madam Speaker, we have a big problem in our hands. And if it's affecting a lot of people, young people, then we have to look at it. Unfortunately, our health system for a long time has not actually recognized this as an illness that should be looked at in that context and not as a behavioral problem. So then we have not really devised or put in place. Fortunately now, even from the legal status, we are looking at it, and we are keep putting up centers, and that is why I support this motion that calls for many centers to be established. So, Madam Speaker, as we do that, the basic issue that we should look at is actually prevention. The value of prevention cannot be underestimated in this. Madam Speaker, I'll give you a simple example that will tell us how, will show us how prevention is important. In this country, by around 1982, we had so much measles that during the measles season, in just one ward of 50 beds, you would have as many as 200 children that are affected, and as many as 5 will die daily. When vaccination was introduced early in the 70s and by 1984 became very effective, from 1984 to 2005, we did not have a single case of measles. That's how it works, and that is where we should look at this. And therefore, the Ministry of Interior and NACADA must really bring up programs that will address mainly prevention as we expand to give rehabilitation that includes detoxification and therefore a social rehabilitation. With that, Madam.
The Honourable Member for Samburu County, Honourable Pauline Lenguris.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I stand to support the motion that it's important, Madam Speaker, to set up strategies on how to help our youths who are really engaged in drug abuse and substance abuse. And Madam Speaker, this challenge is widespread in the country. Every county has a challenge, particularly in the area that I represent, Madam Speaker. We do not have any facility that can help our youths or people who are engaged in drug and substance abuse. And most of the time, Madam Speaker, we are forced to look for health facilities or sometimes refer our people to far areas where they can access services. So, Madam Speaker, I think this is one of the most important strategy and approach that can help our people, because we know that drugs are everywhere in this country. So many of our youths have been engaged into drugs and substance abuse, and most of them, Madam Speaker, require a lot of psychological, socio-ecological support. They need treatment, and these kind of facilities can really help. And Madam Speaker, I will propose that each and every county can have a facility in this country that can help our people who are engaged in drug substance abuse. Madam Speaker, we really have a lot of challenges. I was recently in one of the constituencies, and I was called by the youths, and most of them were asking me to look for a place they can be taken away from their normal environment, and most of them, I realized that they are willing to get out of drugs. And sometimes, you know, peer influence is one of the challenges that is faced by the youths of this country. So, Madam Speaker, I really stand up to support the motion, and I recommend that we have these kind of facilities in each and every county, so that when we have people who require this kind of services, they can be able to access. Because it's really a problem, and if we don't address it now, I know that we are in future, we'll have a lot of challenges in this country. Because we know that our youths are the future leaders of this country, and these are the people who will continue the work that we are doing today. So, Madam Speaker, I support this motion, and I really recommend that these services can be devolved into our county levels so that each and every county will have their own places to take care of this kind of people who require this kind of service, and which is an important one. And we already have a lot of cases. We don't know where to take them. We sometimes take them to the hospitals, which are overwhelmed by other kind of diseases that they take care. So, Madam Speaker, I stand to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Lamu East, Honorable Captain Rueda Obo. I know I've visited some very successful treatment centers in Lamu with you.
Asante Speaker, kunipatia nami nafasi nichangie. Katika watu walioathirika na mambo ya mihadharati, Lamu ni zaidi. Utasikitika ukifika Lamu zile ukiona vile vijana wameathirika. Na kuathirika kwa mihadharati pia inachangia kwa utovu wa usalama na pia inachangia kwa uchumi wa Lamu. Kwa sababu Speaker, wale vijana wanakula mihadharati wanahitajika wakuwe na 1,400 kwa siku. Hiyo 1,400 kama hawaendi kazi wanabidi waibe ndio wapate hiyo dawa wale. Wanaenda kuibia wenye mashamba kama ni mtu ana miti ya minazi inaibiwa yote, hawapati kuvuna. Wale wanaeka mbuzi inaibiwa, wale wanaeka kuku wanaibiwa. Sasa hizo zote zinachangia, wale hathari zinakuwa kwa wale wanaovuta na wale ambao hawavuti. Wale wanavuta hata kuoa hawawezi. Sasa inakuwa shida kubwa. Ikiwekwa hizi rehabilitation centers ikiwekwa zitasaidia sana. Upande wa Lamu Magharibi ziko huduma rehabilitation center 2, moja ni ya Red Cross na moja ni ya watu binafsi. Upande wa Lamu Mashariki hakuna hata moja. Ingetakuwa vizuri izingatie wale watu wetu ambao hawana huduma hizo, na watu wetu wa Lamu Mashariki wanakaa kwenye visiwa vya bahari. Sasa kumtoa mtu kumpeleka Lamu hata kama ni karibu inakuwa changamoto kubwa. So mimi napongeza mjumbe alioweka motion kwa jambo hili la maana sana. Na pia wale wanaotumia mihadharati wanaweza tumika vibaya kama hatuwabadilishi. Sisi tunaishi kwenye boundary ya Somalia. Ni rahisi mtu anayetumia mihadharati kutumika vibaya, na wanakuwa vulnerable. So wanaweza tumika vibaya mpaka tukashangaa. Na saa nyingine pia unaona kama haiangaliwi, wananchi kule wanafikiria sisi tumeletewa mihadharati na kila anayeuza mihadharati anajulikana, lakini hakuna hatua inachukuliwa. Sisi tunafikiria sisi tumeletewa mihadharati, wengine wanasaidiwa. Sasa imekuwa ni kama ni kusudi serikali labda inafanya, lakini najua serikali hii alhamdulillah, nashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu, kuna mikakati wanachukua na nawapongeza, na hile na hakika ikipelekwa kwa Waziri Kindiki atalishughulikia vilivyo, hata kama ni kwa mfuko wa hiyo ministry yake atafanya. Manake amefanya mambo mazuri Lamu, na tunawapongeza serikali, na kwa hili watufanyie zaidi na zaidi na zaidi ili watoto wetu watoke katika hizo mbinu. Na pia Speaker, kabla haijafanywa hizi rehabilitation, kila level 4 hospital ikiwa itawekwa ile methadone itasaidia sana. Manake King Fahad imewekwa ni level 5, imewekwa methadone, imesaidia, lakini watu wangu wa Lamu Mashariki hawajapata methadone. Nimekuwa nikiimba, nimeenda kila upande husika, lakini methadone haijafika hospitali ya Faza. Ikifika methadone ile
Honorable Member for Lamu East, I think it's important to explain what methadone is for the purpose of record, and so that other members can be able to also contribute towards your request.
Asante Speaker. Well guided. Nasema methadone ni dawa ambayo ukipewa hospitali unakwenda kunywa. Ukipewa inatoa ile hamu ya kula zile mihadharati. Lakini sasa mpaka uwe karibu na hiyo hospitali. Ukiwa kama hospitali pengine King Fahd imewekwa, mtu wa Lamu Mashariki hawezi toka akaja huku. Sasa inawekwa kwa hospitali ile ya karibu, ni mzuri, inasaidia hata kushinda rehabilitation centers. Ukinywa asubuhi inategemea dozi yako wewe umetumia drugs namna gani. Ukinywa asubuhi unapewa dozi kulingana na daktari vile atasema. Unakunywa kama unatumia mara 2, unaambiwa jioni urudi, au kama dozi yako ni ile unakunywa mara 1, unakunywa siku ya pili unarudi. Inasaidia sana, na hizi rehabilitation pia zisifanywe tu za kulala. Tunafanya zile rehabilitation za mitaani, zile kama outpatient. Zimekuwa zikifanya kazi vizuri sana. Mombasa zimefanya, Mewa tunawapongeza kwa kazi hiyo, kwa rehabilitation zile za outpatient. Asante Bi Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Kaloleni Constituency, Honourable Kahindi Katana.
Asante Bi Speaker kwa kunipatia nafasi hii ili kuchangia katika mdahalo huu wa mambo ya mihadarati. Bi Speaker, ni jambo la kusikitisha na kutamaisha kwamba vijana wengi, kutamausha haswa vijana wengi kutoka pwani, wamepoteza maisha, wamepoteza mwelekeo kwa sababu ya utumiaji wa mihadarati. Bi Speaker, mihadarati sasa ni tisho kwa usalama wa vijana wetu, hasa wale ambao wako shule. Bi Speaker, mambo ya mihadarati yamezungumziwa kwa muda mrefu, lakini kila uchao tunaendelea kuzungumza matumizi ya mihadarati. Nataka kusema kwamba shirika la Nakada ambalo linatakikana kuhakikisha kwamba mambo ya mihadarati haifanyiki, linafanya nini? Na kila mwaka linapatiwa bajeti na bunge hili ili waweze kutatua shida hii. Bi Speaker, hatuwezi kuendelea kuwalaumu wale wanaotumia mihadarati. Tunataka tujue serikali kupitia shirika la ujasusi NIS ni lazima wanajua ni kina nani wanaleta mihadarati katika nchi hii. Tukitaka kusitisha utumizi wa mihadarati ya watoto wetu, vijana wetu, haswa kwa mashule, ni lazima tuangalie ni shida gani, na wale ambao wanaleta mihadarati. Bi Speaker, ikiwa serikali inawajua, ni kwa nini hakuna hatua ambazo zimechukuliwa kwa muda huu wote? Maybe ama tuseme serikali inachangia, kwa sababu kama mtu anauza mihadarati na anajulikana, ni kwa nini hawezi kuchukuliwa hatua? Mimi ninaunga mkono kwamba tuweze kupanua zahanati ambazo zinarekebisha hawa vijana wetu ambao wanaendelea kutumia mihadarati, lakini ni ghali mno. Na kutaka kusitisha hii, ni serikali ijitokeze na lile shirika la Nakada ambalo limepatiwa jukumu liweze kujikakamua ili tuweze kusitisha utumiaji wa mihadarati katika kati ya vijana wetu. Na vijana wataendelea kutumia mihadarati, Bi Speaker, kwa sababu wako hawana njia ya mapato. Sasa kujiliwaza, wanaona ni njia moja ya kutumia mihadarati ili wapoteze mawazo. Mihadarati imeharibu familia nyingi. Vijana wanaotumia mihadarati, Bi Speaker, hawawezi hata kuoa, kwa sababu wao wakipata chochote kidogo wanakimbilia mihadarati. Wanachukua vyombo hata vya nyumbani wanaenda kuuza ili waendelee kula mihadarati. Ikiwa tunataka kama taifa kusitisha na kusimamisha kabisa na kukomesha mambo ya mihadarati, ni lazima tuungane kama taifa, tupigane na janga hili la mihadarati. Tuweze kuleta viongozi wote wa kidini, tuweze kuleta viongozi wote wa kijamii na taasisi zote, ili kwa taifa tuweze kusema mambo ya mihadarati hatutaki tena katika nchi yetu. Na serikali ni lazima ichukue hatua kali kwa wale ambao wanaleta mihadarati, wale ambao wanajulikana, na serikali inanyamaza. So Speaker, ni lazima kama taifa tujitokeze kimasomaso na kusema kwamba ni lazima tulinde maisha ya vijana wetu, hasa wale ambao wako katika shule. Asante Speaker kwa kunipatia nafasi hii.
Asante. I now call upon member for Mandera South, Honorable Abdul Haro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to put my voice on this important motion. And I take this opportunity to thank Honorable John Makali for this timely motion on expansion of drug and substance abuse rehabilitation centers. I will particularly go straight to the prayer, where the Honorable Member is urging the House prays that the House urges the government to institute intensive programs for the dissemination of information on alcohol and substance abuse in line with Alcoholic Drinks Control Act 2010 to increase the number of rehabilitation centers across the counties. In addition to the prayer by the Honorable Member, I think two more additional issues can be added there, where we can also urge the government to train particularly clerics from regions like where I come from, the clerics in the mosques and the churches, to be able to deal with this drug abuse menace, because they stand a very good chance to fight this problem. I'll also think it is also important to think about the stigmatization of drug addicts. Once you set up the centers and you start rehabilitating the drug addicts, most of the times these drug addicts become stigmatized in the society. So I think question around sensitization on how to deal with the question of stigmatization of drug addicts is also very important. Honorable Speaker, this drug menace is a national problem now. And even traditionally, areas like Northeastern, which was regarded to have very little drug abuse, is now also joining the queue. It's becoming a problem even in Northeastern, particularly due to the fact that we are bordering two countries, difficult neighbors like Somalia and Ethiopia on the other side. And because of these multiple entry points, a lot of drugs which are even not common to our country are now entering Northeastern through Somalia, and also entering Northeastern through Ethiopia. Most of the time we have seen in the news the police intercepting huge amounts of bang and other drugs entering through these difficult borders. And our youth, both those youths who are in school and those who are out of school, are seriously affected. And just like Honorable Member from Lamu had said earlier, the enemies across, especially the terrorists who want to target our youths, find very good recruitment grounds when there is a lot of drug abuse among the youth, particularly in the region where we come from, where there is a huge idle group of youth, and if these youth are subjected to drugs, then definitely they will be easy target for terrorists to recruit them into their cells, and they may become a problem for this country. And I must say, it's not only the youth who are in school and out of school who are affected, even the adults have joined the queue, and you'll see many homes are now having difficulties because either one parent or both parents are addicts, and it's becoming a major issue, especially to the family unity and also to the family life as we've known it. So the most abused drugs, particularly in the region of Northeastern where I come from, are bang, codeine, and mira, and I think apart from the alcoholic drinks that Honorable Members has mentioned in his motion, I think these other type of drugs also need to be focused on. And yes, I support the creation of more centers across all counties in this country for those drug rehabilitation centers. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Asante. Ningependa kumpa nafasi mbunge wa jimbo la Mombasa, Mheshimiwa Zamzam Chimba, kwa sababu najua pia mmeathirika sana kule Mombasa.
Asante sana Bi Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii na mimi niweze kuzungumza kama mama kaunti ya Mombasa, nikilia sana kwa kuhitaji hizi sehemu za marekebisho ama rehabilitation center. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama wanavyojua na kila mtu anajua kuwa Mombasa imeathirika zaidi kwa madawa ya kulevya. Watoto wetu wamekuwa mazombi, watoto wetu wanashika vipanga, watoto wetu hawaoi, watoto wetu wakisimama mahali moja, mtoto unapata anaenda mpaka chini na anarudi kwa sababu ya madawa ya kulevya. Nafikiri mkiona wanavyofanya mtashangaa sana. Saa zingine wengine wanaanza kutembea ule mwendo wa polepole, na hata kuzungumza pia wanakuwa na mazungumzo yale ya kujivuta sana. Mheshimiwa Spika, haya madawa ya kulevya yamekuwa donda sugu katika jamii yetu. Na mimi kama mama county ningependa sana kupigia pondo swala hili la kujenga rehab centers. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama mama county Mombasa nilikuwa najenga pale Mwakirunge GBV center ambayo itakuwa pia na rehabilitation center. Japokuwa nimepata changamoto sana, lakini inaendelea, ila naomba pia tuweze, kuna sehemu ambayo imetengwa ya kujenga rehab center, niweze kupata mfuko ambao waweza kunisaidia nikaweza kujenga pale ili niweze kusaidia vijana wetu wa Mombasa. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama mama county pia nimekuwa nikiregesha watoto skuli wale wa second chance. Amini usiamini Mheshimiwa Spika, wale ni watoto wa kike, lakini wengi walikuwa wameathirika na madawa ya kulevya, na wakishavuta zile dawa wanaingia katika mambo ya kufanya uchafu, wanaingia mambo ya ukahaba, wanafanya mambo mazito sana, na ni watoto wadogo miaka 14, 15, 16. Mheshimiwa Spika, ilikuwa inanitamausha sana. Wengi wametoa mazungumzo, wakasema mama, tunakushukuru, sisi tulikuwa tumeingia katika mambo mazito sana. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, peke yangu siwezi, lazima nipate usaidizi kutoka kwa serikali, tuhakikishe kuwa tunapata rehab centers ambapo hao watoto waweza wakarekebishwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, japokuwa itagusa wengi ambao pengine ilikuwa ni biashara yao, mimi siku zote nimekuwa nikijaribu kutafuta na kujua kwa hawa watoto walikuwa wananunua madawa ya kulevya kwa kina nani. Mheshimiwa Spika, hiyo channel yao ni chain yao ni ndefu sana, na kama tunaweza kupata wale wahusika ambao wanauza hizi drugs, tukipata kutoka kwa hawa watoto itatusaidia sana, ili na sisi tuweze kupata jamii ambayo ni ya kunawiri, jamii ambayo inasonga mbele na kujenga taifa. Mheshimiwa Spika, watoto wengi wa kike pia wamepata ujauzito, mimba za kiolelaolela kwa sababu ya kutumia haya madawa ya kulevya. Wanakuwa hawawezi wakajifahamu, wanafanyiwa vitu vibaya bila wao kujua. Mheshimiwa Spika, umechangia mimba changa kwa watoto ambao wanakwenda skuli kwa sababu hawawezi wakajiprotect. Mheshimiwa Spika, haya madawa ya kulevya pia yamechangia watoto wengi kupata maambukizi ya maradhi, na hata hao vijana wamepata maambukizi ya maradhi ya zinaa, wamepata maradhi mengi sana kwa sababu zile sindano ambazo wanatumia, huyo anadunga, kama amelewa mwenzake anachukua pia anatumia, anadunga. Kwa hiyo hakuna kitu ambacho kinawazuia wakiwa wako juu ama wako hai, wanaita wenyewe wako hai, ama wengine wakuambia arosto noma. Wakati ambapo wanapata ile arosto, wenyewe wanasema wanakuwa na ule mchakato, wanakuwa na msisimko, kila mtu atakimbilia ile sindani moja ambayo mwenzake ametumia, hajui ule mwenzake ana maradhi gani. Mheshimiwa Spika, na kwa hiyo mimi naomba tukiwapata hawa tukawatoa. Hata nakumbuka siku moja tulienda pamoja na mke wa Deputy President na tukaenda tukawaona hawa, aliona mwenyewe, alisikitika sana. Tukaamua kuwa hawa watoto tutapeleka rehab center, lakini mpaka sasa hakuna rehab center. Na mimi pia nachukua fursa hii kuwashukuru ndugu yangu Abdurrahman wa Reach Out, ambaye pia ameweza kufanya kazi hii ndani ya Mombasa County, ameweza kurekebisha vijana wengi sana, na kushukuru sana Reach Out Center kwa kazi nzuri ambayo unafanya. Kwa hiyo nachukua fursa hii tena, nasema napigia pondo sana nikimsupport Mheshimiwa Makali kuweza kuleta mjadala huu. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Asante sana mbunge wa Mombasa. The Honorable Gladys Boss. Member for Uasin County.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to lend my voice to this extremely important subject, the subject of substance and drug abuse here in Kenya. I want to start by stating very clearly that substance abuse, drug addiction, alcohol addiction is a mental illness. That is where we must begin. And as we proceed to debate about this issue, it's imperative that it is dealt with, considered, and managed as an illness. And I speak here with great authority as a mental health ambassador, working very closely with the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Uasin Gishu, the mental health department, and also very closely with the Chiroma group of hospitals, which is led by Professor Frank Njenga, the father of psychiatry in Kenya, and who was one of the first people to raise this issue of addiction as an illness. As we discuss this here in Parliament and debate about it, and I want to congratulate the Honorable John McCarthy for raising this issue, and I hope that this will not be the last time that we discuss it. We need to not only, I know that Honorable McCarthy's motion has focused on the establishment of government-sponsored rehabilitation centers, but I think what we should be asking for is to have rehabilitation centers, whether they are established by faith-based, whether they are faith-based or privately owned or government-owned. The issue is, let's just have more treatment centers. As we've said, it's an illness. The issue that's causing a challenge in the treatment of this in this country is not the lack of the treatment centers. It's the fact that the treatment is not paid for by most insurance companies. The National Hospital Insurance Fund only pays a maximum of 60,000 shillings, which is hardly sufficient to treat someone for 8 weeks. It must be taken as an illness, such as cancer, diabetes, that are chronic and require a long-term treatment, and therefore sufficient resources. Honorable Speaker, I also wish to bring the attention of this House to the Mental Health Task Force that was established in 2019 that came up with very clear recommendations on how to deal with substance abuse and other mental illnesses. Like we've said, it is an illness. It's not substance abuse. Substance abuse is a mental illness. It was clear that there need to be awareness relating to it as an illness so that the stigmatization can end, so that people can seek treatment. The reason why people don't seek treatment is because there is stigma around mental health. If you told your employer that I want sick leave because I have an addiction problem, chances are they will fire you. If you raise the issue with your insurance and say that I need to check into rehab and get treatment, they will tell you it is a pre-existing condition and therefore we do not cover it. In fact, a few days ago, I think it was on Monday, I was at the launch of a book called Healing the Mind, written by Professor Frank Njenga. And in that particular launch meeting, when he spoke, he said enemy number one for mental illness is the insurance companies. Another enemy number two is the church, because they would say they will pray over you rather than for you to seek conventional treatment. But it was great to hear yesterday that they have now agreed that they can work together hand in hand with the mental health specialists to be able to curb this particular treatment. We also know that treatment, as raised by the Honorable Member for Lamu East, is extremely expensive and also requires extreme supervision. For substance abuse, sometimes the patients have to be given a dose of treatment daily at the hospital so that they can be able to stay away from the addiction. But that is only being provided.
Please give her 2 minutes.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for the additional time because this is something I'm very passionate about. We know that in places like Lamu, if it were not for the Red Cross and other private initiatives that provides, I think, the methadone or something, I forget the exact pronunciation, which is critical, they would not have been able to undertake treatment there. The number of people I saw at King Fayed Hospital just tells you that this substance abuse has reached crisis levels. And even as I close this, I want to call upon the Ministry of Internal Security to deal with the security forces in this country because they are complacent in the availability and distribution and use of these illegal substances. The police use it as an extortion tax stop to people. So they find you using it, instead of being proper investigators and telling you, work with us and tell us who's your dealer, because they need to arrest the dealers, not the users. But instead, they collect a few shillings from those poor young people who are already very ill. We also know that in all places where illegal and illicit and dangerous and safe alcohol is sold, every chief knows about that den. Every single county commissioner knows about that den. Every single police officer and OCPD and OCS knows. And I'm not afraid to call out the county commissioner of Uasin Gishu County, Dr. Yale. I did raise it with him, and I pointed out, and I said, in the following places, illegal drugs and illegal alcohol is being sold, they have done nothing about it. They are known to the OCPD. I know a case of Munyaka Primary School where the person who brews the bad alcohol with drugs is sitting there, a woman called Wanjiro. She has been arrested 13 times, and each time she's only fined 10,000 shillings. Of course, it makes sense to continue with the trade. Yet the OCS of Naiberi Police Station, thank God he's been transferred, but he should not have been transferred. He should have been fired because he's going to continue with the same problem to wherever he has been transferred to. So it's about time that our security forces are held to account on this particular issue. If I were allowed to speak, I'd go on for 2 hours, but I'll stop there to give other members an opportunity to speak. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the chance. Asante.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Uasin Gishu County. Honorable members, I would like to welcome students seated in the public gallery this morning, Joyland Marian School, Embakasi East, Nairobi County. You are welcome to the National Assembly to continue observing proceedings of the House. The next opportunity, honorable members, goes to the Honorable Farah Maalim.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to weigh also my ideas on this. Madam Speaker, this country is going to be destroyed, not by anything else, not because of politics, not because of ethnic issues and these other kind of divides. This country is going to be destroyed by drugs and alcohol abuse. The motion here asks for us to have additional rehab centers. Madam Speaker, the experience in this world is that those countries that had the harshest penalties for drug use and drug abuse and drug tradings are some of the cleanest countries in the world today. I will prescribe, and I think we need to do this, that we should have the death penalty for anybody found with anything more than a half a kilogram of any form of drugs, including the cannabis sativa. Madam Speaker, the countries that are now in that category, which are the cleanest countries, which are some of the most progressive countries, which have got a GDP that cannot be matched, are China, Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore. In the Philippines, they were killing them in the streets, extrajudicial as a matter of fact. Iran, Madam Speaker, Saudi Arabia, we have to prescribe the death penalty for the drug use and the drug trading and the drug trafficking in this country, and that's the only way we are going to have a clean country, and only a clean country can become progressive and can go far in life. We have seen drug lords become governors in this country, Madam Speaker. We have seen drug lords enjoy some of the highest positions. We have seen alcoholics in the top offices in this country. Those ones right now are the role models for our children, Madam Speaker. The role models for our children are not the straight-A students. They are not the ones who are going to do very well academically. The role models for our children today are the drug lords who have become members of parliament, who have become governors, who have become everything that one can become in this country. There is